Hello, everyone. This is Vikram Prakash, and you are listening to Architecture Talk. We are picking up our pace here, bringing you more and more conversations that advance the frontier of architectural thinking. And that is certainly the case with my conversation today, and I mean that with Junichi Satoh. Junichi Satoh is new faculty member here in the Department of Architecture at the University of Washington, but he has a distinguished and unbelievably diverse career and a fantastic story about how he came back to be teaching over here our beginning introductions to design, which he has a really broad and interesting take on, moving it as into an alternative for traditional architectural design thinking into something which we agreed was more better characterized as simply architectural thinking. The diverse possibilities of using architectural thinking in constructive ways is the topic of our conversation, organized around an itinerary through his amazing and diverse life. I hope you enjoy it. As usual, if you have suggestions, comments, please do write to me at vikram.prakash, Vikram .prakash, P as in Peter, Rakash, at gmail.com. Look forward to this conversation.
Architecture is really the art and science of turning fiction into fact.
Sometimes kind of real architectural life interferes with intellectual architectural life.
There is no such thing as architecture.
All right, Junichi Satoh, welcome to Architecture Talk.
Thank you.
Such a delight to have this conversation with you. I have only just come to know you. You are new faculty here in the Department of Architecture at the University of Washington. We have stolen you up from the University of Oregon in Eugene.
Yep.
And we spent some time talking last week, and I was so fascinated and so impressed by your life and career and all the things that you've done, and in particular for your vision for what we agreed was architectural thinking,
Yep.
that I thought I had to bring a conversation with you to my listeners here on Architecture Talk.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, so Junichi, start us off by telling us what is it that you have been brought in to teach over here, but really how you are transforming it. I want you to first set up this notion of architectural thinking for us.
So I guess I need to go back a little bit in time and explain to you how I became who I am.
Okay,
right?
tell us, yeah.
So growing up in Japan in the 70s and 80s
Yeah.
was not easy.
Yeah.
Especially when you were trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
If you are passive and try to fit into the system, it's
Yeah.
no problem. The system's great.
Yeah.
Their life was getting better
Yeah.
after the war.
Yeah, 70s and 80s was a boom time for Japan.
Japan,
no?
right?
Yeah.
But watching my father
Yeah.
commute 2 hours in a packed train,
Yeah,
both ways,
Yeah.
To me that wasn't the future that I wanted to live in.
yeah. So you ran away from home, I remember.
Right, after making all this noise and destroyed a lot of things,
Yeah.
object and relationship and a lot of things, I escaped and came to America to be a rock star.
Yes. You
So-
landed in Seattle.
Right, so because Kurt Cobain was starting to become popular.
So you wanted to be the Japan Kurt Cobain?
Right, and I think what I liked about him was he was breaking all the rules.
Yes.
Right, he was changing the music scene. He was changing the business of music.
Yeah.
And he was very vocal about it.
What's your favorite Nirvana song?
That's a hard question. Smells like Teen Spirit.
Of course, Smells Like Teen Spirit.
But so
So you were what? You were sitting down with a guitar on the sidewalks
yeah.
of Seattle and Pike Street, or
Yeah.
where were you?
Pike Place Market.
Pike Place Market. You
yeah.
were singing in Pike Place Market.
Yeah, well, not singing. I'm not a good singer, so I was just playing guitar.
You were playing guitar. Okay.
Yeah. And I was surviving,
Yeah.
trying to find a way to be next Kurt Cobain.
Yeah.
But I did that for a few years.
Yeah.
And someone came to me
Yeah.
and said, you're not gonna make it.
It's good to have honest
Right.
critics, no?
He said, oh, one,
Yeah.
you don't look so good.
Don't look so good?
Because you're a rock star, you have to have the attitude. You
Oh,
have
you
to
didn't
the-
have long hair and all
I
that?
did have a long hair,
Okay.
but I didn't have a long legs. And I didn't have the look.
Yeah.
And also, I wasn't angry. That was a
Oh.
good thing for him to tell me. He says,
Yeah.
you kind of have to be angry about something,
Yeah,
if you want to make a noise.
yeah.
And I asked myself, what am I angry about? So I
That's such great advice. If
Yeah.
you're not angry about something, you're probably not
you're not gonna make it in
passionate
this
about it.
field.
Yeah.
And then he said, well, if you want to get serious about life, come see me. And he turned out to be an art instructor
Yeah.
at Edmonds Community College.
I see.
So I went up, and
Yeah.
he started teaching me everything he knew,
Yeah.
from photography to. He actually was a sculptor, graduated from UW
Oh.
in art department.
Yes.
And so he taught me everything from painting to drawing to sculpture, and that's when I fell in love with art. I probably spent the next 6 months in the studio, 24/7,
Making things.
painting, making, welding, carving.
You don't do things in half measures. you
No,
know.
but it was such an experience that I had never felt. And also, I think that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Something that I can just devote myself to.
Yeah.
And so that I became obsessed and addicted to that feeling.
Yeah.
And so that's my foundation of my living.
Okay, so then you became an artist and
Yep. And then with his suggestion, I went to Rhode Island School of Design.
RISD.
Yeah.
You got into a really
RISD.
fine school.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that changed a lot also. When I got there, coming from this sort of a lower middle class Japanese family,
Yeah.
Coming to America as a teenager,
Yeah.
having no experience in not much of anything,
Yeah.
going to RISD, surrounded with these kids who had already been studying art and design for the last 12 years in schools,
Okay.
traveling to Europe and traveling.
Did you feel intimidated?
Oh, I felt lost. I didn't know what they were talking about most of the time. I didn't even know how to use fork and knife
Yeah.
at the dinner table. So I felt barbaric in a way.
Yeah.
But I learned quickly, and those kids at RISD are great. And they taught me a lot of things I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I think that being at RISD sort of opened my eyes to a different world that
Yeah.
I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
It was finer living, so to speak.
Finer living?
Yeah, because the students would go off to vacation in Europe for the summer, which I had not even.
Dreamt of.
Yeah, like it wasn't
I
in
see.
my
So
vocabulary.
did you feel so you were exposed to the art world, but also the hierarchies in the art world?
That too, but I didn't see it that way.
You saw it as how?
I saw it as this beautiful things that I have not seen that actually exist,
I see.
and I didn't feel jealous or threatened by it, but rather I was curious.
Yeah.
And some of my friends sort of took me under the wing
Yeah.
and took me to their family home, and
Yeah.
so I started to learn how that part of living was.
They adopted you.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I see.
And then when I graduated, the first job I got, the real job I got, was at D&. DeLuca in New York.
Yeah.
The-
Dean and DeLuca, you mean the Italian grocery store?
Right. Well,
Oh.
the international grocery store. They started out with an Italian grocery, but they expanded to international food. And Mr. Dean and DeLuca and the third partner, Jack Shiglek, who was a painter,
Yeah.
really adopted me as their son.
Yeah.
None of them had children. So I became sort of their child, and they took me all over the place, vacation, dinner, parties.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? Why did they adopt you?
I think they saw this little Japanese kid thirsty for knowledge and skills and experience, and they just fed me. I don't know. It was a beautiful moment. They sort of transmitting their knowledge and experience to me. I'm using that to help their business and their lives.
Okay.
But what I learned there was it's not really about anything but art of living.
Art of living.
Yeah, they weren't a businessman. They didn't get into this to start a business. They got into this because they loved food.
Yeah.
And they loved everything about food.
Yeah.
From cooking to eating to whatever.
Right.
And they loved every aspect of food.
Right.
And so they also said explicitly that it's really not about money. It's really not about career. It's really not about security. It's really about living.
Yeah.
right? And none of them came from a wealthy family. They really made it themselves.
Okay.
And Mr. Dean always said, you have to understand from pits to the palace, right? Meaning you have to understand the life from the bottom to the top,
Yeah.
right? And then you can begin to appreciate life and
see.
start to talk about art. So, when they travel, they don't just go to a high-end resort.
Yeah.
They go to the ghettos of the places and they find the best food there.
Yeah.
So they were really living. They were
So
filled
what
with-
were you doing for them? What was your job?
So I did everything they needed, what they needed as a designer. So I designed their stores, cafes, packaging. I
Uh-huh.
also worked behind the counters
I see.
when they needed hands,
Yeah.
kitchen,
Yeah.
everywhere in Luca.
So this Italian international store working with, so would you describe your design style at Dean and DeLuca as just your basic modernist RISD kind of design style, or would you say Japanese influenced, or what was it? Or it was just you were just doing what they roughly outlined for you?
They actually got rid of all the preconceived notion of design that
Yeah.
I came with
Yeah.
from RISD.
Yeah.
They actually told me to forget whatever you learned.
Okay.
This is a whole new thing. Learn as though you don't know anything.
I see.
So I did. And they said, we are in food business.
Yeah.
Right? So understand how food should be looked at, how food should be tasted,
Yeah.
how food should be treated,
Yeah.
and design from that. Right?
It sort of reminds me of Callison's story, Jim Callison, who started Callison Architecture.
Uh-huh.
He also did Nordstrom.
Ah.
That's how he grew up. That's how that firm became big.
Right.
But anyway, that's a different story. Go on.
Yeah. So I think what I learned there was, focus on what actually is the most important thing. It's not about building. It's not about materials that you package food with, but it's the food itself.
I see.
So understand the food.
Yeah.
And then start thinking from there. And everything has to
So,
be
so you made the food into architecture?
architecture for the food, right? So that the
So
space
what is
that-
architecture for the food?
So the space that
Give me an
people can-
example.
The dining table, right?
Yeah.
So it's not about material of
Yeah.
the table or shape of the table, but where the food sit and how you and I sit in relation to the food.
Yeah.
And how do we make it so that it becomes an art of eating, right?
So
I think it's that. So
ergonomics.
no, I think it's the relationship.
Yeah.
We're seeking the better relationship between you and I,
Yeah.
you to the food, I to the food,
Yeah.
and we to this environment we find
So,
ourselves in.
so tell me the secret. What makes for a better relationship?
I don't think we can define it. And I think it's different for every situation. So if you go to a dinner party at Mr. Dean's house, it'll be different every time. The setting would be different. The way we sit would be different.
Yeah.
Because the food he's serving is different. The people who are coming is different. So he would really consider each guest. And
So
try to
every meal, every dinner party is a design project.
Exactly. And not only the dinner party, to the party is also a part of this whole experience.
To the party? What do you mean?
So he would specify a certain time
Yeah.
and for people to show up. And
Yeah.
depending on the time of the day,
Yeah.
he would set up a candlelight way before you get to his house.
Oh.
It's almost like a tea ceremony, in Japanese tea ceremony.
Yeah, it's like a Japanese tea ceremony.
Yeah, so everything is considered for the enjoyment of the moment. Not for anything else, but for that moment.
So you're saying his dinner parties were like a Japanese tea
Tea
ceremony.
ceremony. Yeah, to appreciate each other in that moment.
And was there ritual involved also in his dinners?
Without us knowing, he would hire coat check for his dinner party. So
Yeah.
that someone would take your coat,
Yeah.
put it away so you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, coat check is kind of a ritual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he would have a server,
Yeah.
but not formal server.
Yeah.
Like he would hire someone from the store for night.
Yeah.
And they would be just around to take care of the guest, whatever they need. And they would make sure that the guests have wines and the water. And
I see.
we wouldn't even know it, that these guys were hired
I
to
see.
do that. So I think that's when I started to think differently about my role in this world. I'm not making a Marx, or I'm not making anything really.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to make that the better relationship between the humans and us to the world.
Right. Right.
whatever that might be.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
So you were. How long did you work with Dean and DeLuca?
over a decade.
A decade.
Yeah, because they sold business to a company from California, but we stayed on as a consultant.
Yeah.
That's when I, Mr. Dean, and Jack started a company together in New York.
Called?
Shigrek, Dean, and Sato. So
Ah.
three of our names. What we did was the Dean and Rico was our client, but also we started to design houses and kitchens and the food product for other people.
So you were designing houses to consume food well.
Right. So always our design would start from the kitchen.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
where do we put the kitchen?
Yeah, yeah.
And then what do we eat? And then the rest comes. And that's when I started teaching as well. And I think my teaching changed because I started working with them.
You started teaching where?
RISD.
Oh, you went back to RISD
Yeah.
to teach. Yeah, okay.
I didn't study architecture first.
At RISD.
I studied graphic design. And when we started designing houses, I hadn't studied architecture yet.
Okay.
yeah.
So you were designing houses, doing architecture without architecture degree.
Right, or spaces.
Were
or
you good at
stores. I think so. I mean, we got published all over the place.
Okay.
And we did get published, and that's when I realized that I probably needed to know more about architecture. I was asked a few questions by these journalists. But, I didn't even know what the question was about. They would use word like tectonics.
Tectonics.
And I had no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So I decided to go back to school.
Okay.
So I did, and when I graduated, they offered me teaching position, and I started teaching.
Oh, so you went back to RISD.
Yeah, for MR.
You know, MR. You
Yeah.
did a professional master's.
Right. Right.
And immediately RISD offered you a teaching job.
Yeah, I was much older, and they needed to fill some spot.
Some spot, yeah, okay,
And
yeah.
I had been TAing for a lot of faculties.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so
Alright.
I started teaching. So I was commuting from New York
Yeah.
to Providence for a while. I think
New York to Providence. That's quite a way.
3.5 hours commute.
What?
Yeah,
That's not a commute. Okay, anyway.
that was great. But that's when I started to wonder about what we are teaching to the students. So, a lot of design teaching is about design,
Yeah.
right? So we talk about design principle, talk about how. And then amongst the teachers, we talk about how to teach those how to design.
Yeah.
So it's all about how.
Yeah.
At the end of the look, so whenever I go back to New York, the how was never important. The what was more important, or why. Right?
Yeah, why.
Why.
Why? Yeah. Why rather than how?
Yeah.
So the question rather than the methodology.
Right. So the methodology really didn't matter. Mr. Dean really didn't care if I had a perspective drawing
Yeah.
of the store.
Why don't you tell NAB this? Yeah.
And I think that's how I'm trying to get my students to think.
Yeah.
And I had a student at RISD. This student, the project was to design a library,
Uh-huh.
and we gave them a site,
Yeah.
right? And it's a typical project.
Yeah.
And this student came over to me after 3 weeks.
Yeah.
After everybody's doing a site analysis,
Right.
and, precedents.
Yeah.
She came to me
Yeah.
and said, "Junichi, I don't think it's a good idea." I said, "What's not a good idea?"
Uh-huh.
The library.
Uh-huh.
We shouldn't build a library there.
Oh. And that was the best solution.
Exactly. But it didn't dawn on me
Yeah.
that, wow, this student is actually asking the right question.
Yeah.
Like, it's not about how to design this library, but she's saying why.
Why?
And that also changed the way I think about teaching. So I think I've been trying to get rid of prescribed way of teaching architecture or anything for that matter. Try to encourage the student go out and ask for themselves why.
So you started teaching at RISD, and then where did you go?
Then I quit everything.
You were just disgusted with teaching. You thought
No. Teaching was great,
Yeah.
but my business was thriving in
Yeah,
New York.
yeah.
But I think I got burnt out.
too much.
Too much of too much.
Commuting 3.5 hours. Anybody will get burnt out. Yeah.
So I quit everything. I
Yeah.
quit my design studio. I
Yeah.
shut it all down
Yeah.
and became a farmer. I apprenticed to a farmer upstate New York. I felt like I needed to find my connection.
Back to the earth.
Earth. Yeah.
Was your dad a farmer?
No, he was a typical Japanese businessman.
Japanese businessman. So you became a farmer.
Yeah.
You're crazy, Junichi.
Yeah, I didn't think about that though. It made sense to me. I think
How did it make sense?
I was reading a lot of things by Wendell Berry and also Bernard Rudofsky and all these old thinkers.
Oh, architecture without architects? and all
Yeah,
that?
yeah. And you know, all these wise men was telling me we probably need to find a better way of living, different way of living, if we are to solve.
So you read Henry David Thoreau also?
Yes. All those people, right?
So you went and became a farmer.
Farmer. And
Oh my God, yes, okay.
Because that's the foundation of living, right?
Yes.
Like a food.
Food. Oh, okay,
Right.
you wanted to grow food.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I learned a lot about food at the Luca, and I wanted to know where it comes from and
Yeah.
how to make the whole system better.
Yeah.
So I did that for a while, and then my master farmer decided to retire.
Yeah.
So I needed to find another place to go.
Yeah.
And with his suggestion, I moved to South Carolina to farm because the land is cheaper. And
So how many years did you farm?
Total 6-7 years.
7 years
Yeah.
you farmed.
Yeah.
What did you learn about life?
That's a good question. A lot of things. The happiness doesn't come from out there.
Happiness comes from within.
You're right.
The Buddha told you that 2,000 years ago.
Right. But I think we don't quite understand that until we experience certain things.
How did farming teach you that?
Because, you know, when you're farming, you really don't have much time to go shopping or go to museum or go do these things or go movies for that matter. So you begin to appreciate little things and you begin to learn to appreciate little things. But they're not little things, like, you know, these seeds turning into food.
Seed turning into food is magic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no better story than that. Right?
There is no better story than that.
So living on a farm became a magical experience.
So you had 6 years of magical living.
Yeah.
How did that teach you that happiness comes from within?
Because I was happy.
So okay.
Without having any external stimulation
you
or
were looking at
recognition.
seeds and looking at tomatoes. What were you growing?
Japanese vegetables.
Japanese vegetables in South Carolina. Are you crazy?
I wish you had told me that. That was a bad idea. Because no one would buy it.
No one would buy it.
No. I wish you had told me that before. Yeah, but no one would buy it. That's when I quit. I had to quit and start making living.
Yeah.
Because I had no money. So that's when I started teaching again. I went to Clemson and they offered me a position there.
Yeah.
I
Teaching what?
architecture.
Architecture.
Yeah, they were looking for someone to teach the MArch 1
Yeah.
track students. Yeah, I basically begged them to give me a position because I really needed
Because
to.
you were broke.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they gave me a position. It was great. They had a new director there,
Yeah.
and there were a lot of young faculty there, and there was this energy there.
How many years did you teach at Clemson?
3 years.
And what did you learn there? Were you successful?
Yeah, I loved it. I had a great colleagues, a great relationship with the students.
So why did you leave?
My father got sick.
Your father got sick.
Yeah, I hadn't seen him. I didn't really know the guy. 30 years.
30 years. You hadn't met your father.
I saw him a few times, and for a short
How
amount of
often
time.
did you go to Japan all these years?
Every 3 years or so.
3 years or
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
But not to see my parents, just to see my friends. And
You didn't see your parents.
I saw them for a short amount of time. Just say hi and tell them that I'm alive.
Yeah.
I really didn't have a good relationship with them.
Wow.
Yeah.
But then you gave everything up to go and be with your father.
Well,
Prodigal son.
we didn't know that he was gonna live that long. They told me he was gonna die.
Yeah.
So I decided to take a couple weeks off, go to the funeral,
Yeah.
and come back teaching.
Yeah.
And what happened was my dad, as soon as I showed up, he looked at his doctor and says, my oldest son has come home.
Yeah.
So I can die now. Take me home.
Yeah.
No more treatment, no more medicine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we took him home.
Yeah.
He got better. It was amazing. After 2 weeks, we knew there was something wrong here. Like his color's coming back, he's eating again, and after a month, he's walking. So I said to the doctor, "Is he really dying? Because I kind of gotta get back to work."
Yeah.
And he said, "Yeah, any minute now." And it happens when these patients go off the treatment.
Yeah.
Their body bounce back for a while, but it crashes quickly.
Yeah.
A long story short, he lived 3 years. So after 6 months, we called Clemson, and my wife was there with me.
Yeah.
And we called Clemson. We're gonna stay. This must be some sign that we should spend his last moment with him here.
Eldest son, how many brothers are you?
I have a younger brother.
Two brothers.
Two brothers. Yeah.
brothers. Any sisters?
No, just
Okay,
two of us.
Just the two
Yeah.
of you. What does your younger brother do?
He was trained as a chef. He went to Italy, learned to cook.
He's food too.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Italian too. He's just following your footsteps. You set him up?
No. He did it on his own.
Because his elder brother was doing all this.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But then he came back to
So
Japan.
he's a good Italian chef.
He is.
Are you a good cook?
I think I'm better than him.
Italian or Japanese?
I don't. Everything.
Everything.
Well, I just pick
Oh
ingredients
my
and put it together.
God.
Like I don't have a particular thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we have to cook together.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
You like to cook?
I like to cook.
Yeah.
I'm not a great cook.
Yeah.
But
we should just go to market,
yeah.
pick things up.
Pick things up and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yes.
how I cook.
Yes,
Yeah.
me too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Let's do
yeah,
that.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe we'll have a dinner and you and I will cook for our new faculty cohort or something.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
I have a fun kitchen.
You do?
Yeah.
All right.
A really fun kitchen.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I would love to do that.
Okay, so the old man started to get better.
Yeah.
And then
And,
what did you do?
Well, so, again, we started running out of money.
Yeah.
So we looked around and maybe we should open a store.
Oh.
Because we had sort of partnership with
Yeah.
this friends
Yeah.
in New York
Yeah.
who are making clothes
Yeah.
and bags.
Yeah.
And we decided to join together
Yeah.
and open a store in Tokyo. So we would design clothes,
Yeah.
make in New York,
Yeah.
and sell them in my store.
Wait. You were designing food interiors, then you were doing agriculture, and now suddenly you're designing clothes.
I make a lot of things. I'm one of those people who like to make things.
So you can make anything.
You can too. I mean, we have YouTube today. Shows everything.
No. So
I think it's just a matter of giving yourself time to learn those things. Like,
Okay.
sit down and do it, right?
so you sat down, you taught yourself how to sew.
Yeah,
This waistcoat, you're wearing a wonderful, beautiful waistcoat.
yeah,
Did you sew this yourself?
yeah,
You sewed it yourself?
yeah. And this is a sample.
Oh, this is your sample?
Yeah.
I need one of those.
So we started to do that.
Yeah.
But then, having a store is fun for a while, but it gets old quick.
Yeah.
So I started to grab this unsuspecting customer
Yeah.
to the back room and say, hey, let's have some tea together.
Uh-huh.
And we would sit and have tea and we talk
Yeah.
and find out about who they are and where they come from. And pretty soon my wife and I realized that these Japanese people are miserable.
Yeah.
They're depressed, they're stressed,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
overworked.
Yeah.
The husband and wife not talking to each other.
Yeah.
So we started to make an event for these people to be happy.
So you made a happiness shop,
Exactly, yeah.
the happiness store. Instead of the body shop, you should have the happiness shop.
So then I would find out that guy knows how to make ceramics. So
Yeah.
I would have him come and teach people at the store how to make it.
Yeah.
And we would make it and sell them at our store.
Yeah.
And then, someone knows how to write a poetry. So we
Yeah.
have a poetry workshop.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So,
What?
Yeah, so
Really?
our store sort of became every time you go in there, something else is happening.
What was the store called?
Utility Works.
Utility
It
Works.
It's still there.
Still there.
Yeah, so we
In Tokyo.
Yeah, we run it for about 3 years.
Yeah.
And then, great, the community grew. So every Friday we would have anywhere from 150 to 300 people in this 500 square feet store, spilling out to the street, drinking.
How many people? 150?
Yeah.
Every Friday?
Yeah. So we would have a film showing. Like we would make a film during the week
Yeah.
with our neighbors
Yeah.
and show it.
Yeah.
And then all these people come and critique it after.
Yeah.
Through the night,
Yeah.
drinking, eating,
Yeah.
and serious discourse about
Yeah.
filmmaking.
Yeah. Oh.
But none of these people are film critics or had ever made films.
Yeah.
But I would instigate these questions. Like,
Yeah.
So how was acting, right? And then someone said, "Oh, that was great."
Yeah.
And I would say, "Really though?
Yeah.
Like that? You call that great acting?"
Yeah.
And then we started having a real discussion. But
Yeah.
and then we would make a theater,
Yeah.
live sitcom, weekly sitcom.
So you're doing theater,
Yeah.
film
Film.
criticism,
Yeah, art school.
art, ceramics,
yeah.
clothes, I'm sure food.
Yeah, and some people started to quit their day job
Yeah.
because they found something else they're passionate about.
Ah.
Like one guy became a photographer, the other guy became a writer, the
Yeah.
other guy became a chef.
Yeah.
Someone opened a cafe because
Yeah.
of the experience.
Yeah.
So we realized there's something going on there.
Yeah.
And at this point, it wasn't ours anymore. The community was running it.
Yeah.
We would suggest something, but they would say, "Oh no, that's a bad idea. Let's do this instead."
Oh.
Great, right?
Oh.
So after 3 years, my immigration status in the U.S. started to get a little iffy. Because I have a green card.
You have a green
Yeah,
card.
so I was going back and forth between,
Yeah.
but it gets expensive.
Yeah.
So my wife said, "Well, maybe it's time to hand over this business to
Yeah.
the community
Yeah.
and go back to the States and see what else we can do."
Okay.
So the store is now run by the community. They're running
No,
it.
really?
Yeah, they're keeping
Okay.
it
We
going.
gotta go do a field visit.
Yeah. The funny thing is, it's a lot more organized.
You were chaotic.
No, yeah, I was. And they have a calendar of events, and they know exactly what's happening.
Uh-huh.
It's thriving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I came back, and I think at this point, I'm not even calling myself the teacher of architecture.
Yeah.
I'm just instigator of fun.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
won't-
Instigator of fun.
So
Instigator of fun.
fun.
Salman Rushdie could write a novel about that.
Because there's so many people are not having fun.
Yeah.
And it's not that. It's
So you have the happiness shop, and
Yeah.
its mission is instigating fun.
fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you leave it all for a green card.
Right. Well, on the hindsight, that probably wasn't such a good idea. We probably should have stayed.
You
and,
should have.
Yeah, made it into something else. But,
Okay.
But at that time, my wife and I felt that it's time.
Okay.
My father had passed away.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, we stayed long enough to take care of my mother and
Uh-huh.
make sure that she was okay
Yeah.
by herself. So we came back. The new job opened up in San Diego.
Oh, yeah.
So we decided that that's a good timing. So
Okay.
we moved to San Diego where we had never been.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, always sunny,
Yeah,
supposedly.
yeah,
right?
yeah. San Diego, always sunny, nice temperature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little did we know that would drive anybody crazy. Like, sunny day every day.
Sunny day every day drove you crazy?
Uh-huh.
You're crazy. Well, I'm glad you're in Seattle because
Yeah.
we have a lot of gray days.
Yes, and we love it. But yeah, San Diego was an interesting place.
What year did you move back to San Diego?
2018.
18.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what happened in San Diego?
So we continued doing similar things. We got
You
involved.
opened a happiness store in San Diego?
No, but we joined with a local organization that were sort of doing a similar thing. There's a place called AJA Project, and
Spell it?
AJA
Okay.
Project.
Aja.
It's
Okay.
it's an acronym
Okay.
in Spanish. It's basically helping people to be independent.
Okay.
So what we do there is to gather the students from underserved community,
Yeah.
immigrants,
Yeah.
migrants,
Yeah.
and teach them things around photography, storytelling.
I see.
So we will teach kids how to make stories
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and tell it.
Yeah.
So some kids would perform it, some
Yeah.
kids would make film,
Yeah.
write.
Yeah.
And so we...
So you teach them how to tell stories.
Right.
Okay, so I'm starting to get this. So you learned that the important question is why, not how. And then you decide that the real question is happiness and fun. And then you decide that the best thing about this is to learn to tell stories.
Wow. That's an amazing summary.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm making
yeah,
the curriculum for the
yeah,
architecture
thinking.
thinking curriculum.
You're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think I'm distilling
Yeah.
life into something that I guess I'm looking for the core
Yeah.
of what we are about.
Yeah. Or the curriculum. I like
Right.
core or curriculum. Okay. So you teach storytelling.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we do that, and then my wife got involved with this organization called ARTS, and it's acronym for A Reason to Survive. So they're also a similar organization.
A Reason to Survive. Amazing title.
Yeah. So
That's what arts is. A reason to survive.
survive.
Oh my God, I
Yeah.
hope there is somebody in the digital universe listening to this podcast because they can finally understand the value of art.
Arts.
It's the reason to survive.
and they have an amazing history. As a man started this organization to really give a reason for children in this poor neighborhood,
Yeah.
a dangerous neighborhood,
Yeah.
the kids who had no hope for the future.
Yeah.
This guy decided to give them a hope
Yeah.
through art.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing organization. My wife joined.
This is all like that guy who picked you up from Pike Place Market
Yeah.
and gave you a reason to survive.
Yeah.
So you're just doing the same thing.
Yeah,
That-
I'm now giving back.
you're doing
yeah.
what he did for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That actually I am conscious of. I'm trying to give back. And
Oh, give back means nothing. Everybody claims to be giving back. You're doing a lot more than giving back. You know, just because you give something, you fund a charity, that's nothing compared to what you're doing.
thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, this is way more than giving back. So you did this for a while.
Yeah. And but San Diego was a difficult place for us.
It was difficult.
Yeah. My wife's from the South, and I'm from Japan, New York.
The South, you mean?
And my wife's from Georgia.
Georgia.
Yeah.
She's a Southern girl.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. And the culture didn't really make sense to us.
California's too crazy for her.
Yeah, it's very. I don't want to be too negative about California because there's a lot of great thing about California. For one, we were talking about sustainability, but being in Southern California itself is not sustainable.
Why not?
You have to steal water from everywhere just to have a.
Live on very little water. You can be sustainable there.
But not in that scale. There's
Yeah.
so many people there.
Yeah.
There's so much industry that
Yeah.
wastes so much water.
Yeah. You're talking about almonds. You're talking about all the
Yeah,
farming.
right. Almonds, and it doesn't feel like they're going in the direction of sustainability. They talk about sustainability a lot,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's the perfect example of what Bernard Rudolph said. We don't need new technology. We
Yeah.
need a new way of living.
Yeah.
Right. So we felt kind of funny
Yeah.
teaching in the environment
Yeah.
because whatever we are saying, we're just saying it.
Just for saying it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Makes you feel good, but it doesn't actually do anything.
right. So we decided.
So you felt hypocritical,
yeah,
okay.
somewhat.
somewhat. And so you decided to leave California.
We started looking,
Yeah.
and then the University of Oregon offered me this fellowship
Uh-huh.
to talk about diversity and equity in design.
Diversity and equity in design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a spatial justice
This
fellowship.
is like a separate track. You were going on a fun and happiness track. Now suddenly you're on a diversity, equity, and sustainability track.
Oh
What
my God.
happened?
You are seeing right through me. That's so scary.
Yeah.
Oh man. And you're the first one to catch that. I mean, I knew it,
Yeah.
but nobody else ever said anything.
It's obvious.
You're the.
What's going on?
So I think it was a kind of excuse to get out of California.
Oh, you're just using it as an excuse.
Yeah, because if you look at
I
my,
don't blame you. California, anybody, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
if you look at
nobody-
in my past, that could be construed as the social justice, right? Like I'm helping people. Yeah, but that wasn't my point.
Yeah.
But I sort of constructed this narrative.
Packaged it.
You're right.
You told a story.
Yeah.
You were teaching storytelling, so
Yeah.
you made up a story
Yeah.
that fits these West Coast values
Yeah.
that we all have over here. This is what we want to buy here
Yeah.
in the West Coast, right?
But so what happened though was that so I joined the fellowship
Yeah.
and I met few people there.
Yeah.
Robert Clark from Brooklyn,
Yeah.
Sami Chohan from Pakistan.
I know Sammy. I met
Right,
Sammy.
right. So three of us would get together once in a while and discuss.
Yeah.
And none of us were really happy there
Yeah.
after a while.
Yeah.
And for multiple reasons. But the biggest reason was this notion of spatial justice.
Yeah.
Right. Shortly after we realized that the conversation is really not about anything, but like you said, it's a marketing tactics.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
It sounds like something we should be talking about.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot about what what's going on.
Yeah.
And I tell people now, this is the first time in 35 years of being in America that I feel like I'm a minority, because I had never been conscious of my race until this moment. This last 2 years, all of a sudden everybody told me that I'm a Japanese, I'm an Asian.
Yes. I so completely experienced the same thing.
Yeah.
Now, this is not to undermine other people's experiences who feel marginalized all the time, but I also suddenly started to feel like a colored person in the last few years.
Right. It's a strange phenomenon to me.
It is a strange phenomenon.
Yeah. So three of us used to get together and we talk about what really needs to happen. And my feeling was that it's really not about us coming up with a solution to this equity, diversity problems.
Yeah.
But it's probably the people in the majority
Yeah.
that needs to go out and understand and try to fix whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
But instead, they're putting the pressure on us
Yeah.
to come up with a solution, which I don't think is the right thing to do.
Yeah, that's a very interesting viewpoint, because we have this kind of sense that somehow we got to have minority people at the table and they will tell us what is the right thing to do.
Right.
Really, what we are looking for in many cases is, for them to bless the process that we are engaged with.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
It's a very strange thing.
Yeah. So I went to University of Oregon not really knowing about any of that, but I did learn a lot about the issues that we are facing.
Mm-hmm. And you started to run a salon in the bar.
Right. So that was sort of came out of a frustration, and someone had listened to your architecture talk.
Oh, it's my fault? Now you're blaming me?
No, I'm not blaming you. It was great because someone heard the talk, and we started to have a discussion, a graduate student and I. And I said, well, let's take it to the bar. I own some beer.
Yeah.
So we went to the bar, and he and I started to talk about things we heard on your podcast and also other things that we started to hear.
Yeah.
And we started to talk heart to heart.
Yeah.
And he's white from California. Yeah. And he's trying to be an architect.
Yeah.
And I asked him why.
Yeah.
And he couldn't answer.
Yeah.
Right?
He knew the how, but he didn't know the why.
Why?
Yeah.
Right? Because
And was he having fun?
No.
Was he happy?
No.
Oh, there you are. So that's 3 for 3.
Yeah.
You say in America, 3 strikes, you're out.
Yeah. Deep inside, he wants to be a chef.
Oh my God.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah, so we started to talk, and then we started to invite other people to join the conversation the following Friday to really talk.
Yeah.
And then this first guy said, we should call this Arc Talk.
Arc Talk, my God. So architecture talk spreads.
Yeah. So that's what we started to do every Friday.
Okay.
And then it just grew and grew.
Grew and grew?
Yeah.
Like how many people?
At one point, there was about 50 students and several faculty members discussing on the second floor of this bar.
Discussing what?
What's wrong with architecture? Or architecture with a small a.
I love it, but it has to be in a bar across the street. I think that was part of the success of the AA also, in London during the good old 70s, 80s, 90s, that they had a bar right across the street. Or actually, was it integrated into the school?
Oh,
but
wow,
this idea of the other space is very critical.
Yeah. And the biggest rule was that whatever that's said in the bar
stays in the bar.
Yeah. And no hard feeling, right? So that because we got into a lot of very hard discussion.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of students whose heart is in this architecture with AIA. They are in this for AIA, and they strongly believe it, and they want to support this entity. Yeah. And then here I come, and I come from completely different field, saying, "Oh, don't listen to it." And we would have a real discussion, and
So that sounds fantastic. So again, you have the utility works happening in arch talks now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I guess you're right, though. I think
This
I
is
am.
Utility Works 2.0.
I'm using a storytelling because I'm forcing everybody to tell stories.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're using the same thing. You're using the sort of a community space to bring together people and liberate them from their
Trappings.
for their
Yeah.
own trappings,
Yeah.
from their own self caging.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You're a Buddhist.
Well, I am Buddhist. Yeah.
Okay, then.
Yeah, so here I am. I've always wanted to come back to Seattle because this is where my eyes were open.
Oh, so it's a long journey. You went from here, you went to RISD,
Yeah.
you went to South Carolina,
New
well,
York.
beefed back to Japan, and then to San Diego, then up to Oregon, then finally back to Seattle.
Seattle.
It's a circle.
Right, right. So I've always wanted to come back here with whatever I learned through
Okay.
this journey.
Yeah,
So here I am. I think I'm really ARC 200
Yeah.
in my class.
Yeah.
I'm really just exposing myself.
yeah,
Telling them who I am,
Yeah.
how I got here, and
Yeah.
what I do, what I believe,
yeah,
and asking them to do the same.
yeah.
And designing too. I don't even use word floor, walls, roof.
Yeah.
It's not about that.
Yeah.
But it's really about us and how we become human.
Yeah.
What it means to be human.
What it means to be human.
And if without that question,
Yeah.
there's no point in creating a shell for it.
Yeah.
Right? And I think students are really responding well to it.
Yeah.
I think they see the value in it.
So the purpose of an architectural education, or really the purpose of architecture, is to answer the question what it is to be human and how could one live.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or not how, why, or
Yeah.
how should one, yeah, go on.
Bernard Rudolphski. I keep bringing
You
his
keep
name.
bringing
Yeah.
Bernard Rudolphski back.
Yeah,
He's
'cause-
the man who invented black clothes for human beings.
Yeah.
For architects.
Yeah.
That's his major contribution. And it was a disaster. I don't know why he had black, he invented the black uniform for us.
But I think he had some right attitude. He was questioning a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I think in one of his essays, he said the art of living is the most important science of all.
Mm-hmm.
But we decided not to pursue it as a society. He's talking mainly about American society.
Yeah, yeah.
If we get rid of all arts from the K through 12 education as much as they can, every time there's a budget crisis, the first thing to go is art.
Yeah.
Food.
Yeah.
We don't really take time to appreciate food anymore. So to me, you can't really talk about teaching architecture without having the art of living simultaneously. Like if we don't know how to live beautifully,
The art and craft and purpose of living. So how to live beautifully and how to live meaningfully. Right?
yeah. And those
Yeah.
are,
See, on my screen, I have one yellow post-it. There's only one message I tell myself. The first line says, don't sell, but think. So never try and sell anything.
huh.
And the second line says, only make beautiful things.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think we've forgotten that.
Yeah.
So the state of California gave me a grant to research about how to rebuild a curriculum, art and design curriculum for Cal State. And they gave me enough money for me to travel. And one of the schools I visited was, I visited a lot of schools. And one of the school was at UT Austin. And then I can't remember the professor's name.
Well, Frisch Steiner was dean for a long time. Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, I emailed a lot of different faculty
Yeah.
all over the country, and the only people who would reply to my request
Yeah.
to meet
Yeah.
are the older faculty members. The younger faculty member had no time for me.
Really?
Yeah, it was funny. Older faculty or the faculty already retired. And my question was, I want to know if you were to start a new school today,
Yeah.
how would you start it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was my
You have to
question.
be older to answer that.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I mean, my colleague Mark and I think about that all the time.
Huh.
Because we really feel like we must start a new school.
Huh.
So, okay,
Yeah.
so you're here and you're producing a curriculum in the introductory architectural design courses, and you're just saying what?
I'm giving them a basic tool
Yeah.
to tell a story.
Yeah.
As you said, I think that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it, the basic tool meaning paper and pen.
Yeah. So
That's
tell
it.
a story.
Yeah, and then so I'm asking them, how would you use these to portray whatever you're trying to communicate?
I mean, this is so good, because this is different from, this whole process-oriented stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This, you got to do this, then
Right.
you got to do that, then you got to bring so-and-so, then you got to... It's all based on sort of efficiency and representation.
Right.
Whereas what you are saying is, how do you tell a story?
Right.
How do you tell a good story? There's a good friend of mine, Warren Etheridge, who runs how to make film kind of courses.
Huh.
And I think his point is, the point isn't how you make a film, the point is how to tell a story. And a good story is a story from his perspective, from what I remember, is a story in which somebody is trying to solve something they don't understand.
Huh.
They are trying to figure something out.
Right.
Those make the best stories. he
Right.
says.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, all right. So this is the introductory thing, and we have two architecture programs in our undergraduate. One is the sort of standard, studio-based, professionally oriented curriculum, but we also have this other thing called architectural studies. And you have a feeling that this could be. Currently, it's basically a major available to people who didn't get into the design thinking.
Right.
And they might do something else, or maybe they apply into a design curriculum at the master's level.
Right.
But I have a feeling, and we've talked about this before, that you think that somehow this could be developed into a program which could show the value of a architectural education as a pathway or as a framework of thinking for a number of disciplines and
Right,
professions.
right.
Like why and how?
So after all these traveling and after all these different things I've tried, what helped me survive and succeed is what I learned in architecture schools, which is to analyze, articulate, communicate, right? And it gave me this sort of intensity to dig deeper,
Yeah.
try to understand.
Yeah.
The architecture education does that to people, I think.
Analyze, articulate,
and-
explain,
Yeah.
and constantly dig deeper.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I think that's.
I'm trying to make a recipe.
But I think that's what this architecture education did to me, and I think it does that to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because I think people who go through architecture schools are very good at researching, developing ideas, and that.
Researching and developing ideas about anything.
Right. And that skill is very valuable in everything, right? And not just in business, but living.
Yeah.
Go back to happiness issue
Yeah.
or beauty.
Yeah.
It's not
And fun.
something it's not something you can just easily receive.
Yeah.
You really have to dig deeper and deeper and deeper to find those things.
Yeah.
And I think architecture education does that.
So architectural education, because of its interest and openness and proclivity to research, articulate, communicate, and constantly dig deeper and ask questions and be focused on the why rather than the how,
Right.
is a training that can start to teach you how to live and be happy.
Right. And live beautifully.
And
Yeah.
live beautifully.
Right.
That's what we are doing. That's what we should be doing.
Right.
Architecture is the art of learning to live beautifully
Yeah.
and happily.
Yeah. So if that's the case, the UW's two tracks, the BA in architectural design, architectural studies, the architectural design, fine. We
Of
do
course,
need
we need
architects,
that, we
right?
need that, yeah.
But architectural studies can really focus on what we just said, right?
Yeah.
Like art of living beautifully.
Well, that's not. Yeah, that should be. It should be art of living beautifully.
which
should be a major for open or a minor requirement for every student on campus.
I am grateful for the skills the architecture school gave me.
What skills?
The articulate.
Yeah, of course.
So that's what I'm trying to teach students. It's not about how to build buildings.
Yeah.
But it's about becoming an architect with a capital A. Right?
Yeah.
Like thinking. Like how,
Learning about architectural thinking
Yeah.
rather than architecture technique.
Right. And I think it's a beautiful thing to have a 2-track here.
You know, I grew up in Chandigarh. You know, the great modernist
Right.
city designed by Le Corbusier and so on. And when you read Corbusier, and he may be right or wrong in his answers, but he was always only interested in the art of living. All his books, all his articulations, everything he wrote about. And the thing that I received about architecture growing up in Chandigarh, and my father worked with Corbusier, so there was a lot of discussion about this in the house. It was all about how to live,
Yeah.
not about building buildings.
Yeah, I saw that too. I read some of his letters.
Yeah.
And little sketches he does.
Yeah, he was always describing how to live.
About food.
Yeah.
About music, art.
Yeah, everything was part of it.
Right. Yeah. I guess that part is sort of misunderstood. We don't focus on that. The humanness, the pursuit of how to become a better human that he was striving for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what we can bring to there.
How to live better.
Yeah.
And how to live more. Now we can allow in sustainability, because how to live more harmoniously with everything else, because it makes life more happy, fun, beautiful, and may I add, peaceful.
Right. We really need to find a better way of living.
We really need to find a better way of living. We need to accept that we have screwed up a way of living. We may have made very efficient ways of living and very expansive and rich and impressive, but not better. Junichi, this has been an enlightening, eye-opening, ear-resonating, mouth-watering, tactile, intellectual, and happiness-inducing conversation.
Thank you.
I have so enjoyed it. We have to do more about this.
I look forward to that.
I wish you the best, and I look forward to working with you over for many, many years.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Architecture Talk. This is your producer, Mary Lee. We hope you enjoyed the conversation, and if you did, please subscribe and rate us on iTunes or Spotify. We would also love to hear from you if you have any suggestions on new topics or guests. You can always reach out to us on our website, Facebook, or Instagram. Thanks again, and until next time, this is Architecture Talk.